Welcome to the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Krystal. We're business coaches and retreat hosts for bold, purpose-driven women who are ready to build businesses that actually fit their lives.
This podcast is for the authentic, rebellious entrepreneur who's done playing by everyone else's rules. We know what works because we've lived it, coached it, and savored the journey.
Join us for real talk on business, life, and everything in between.
Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. My name is Krystal, and I'm joined here today with my fabulous business partner, Wendy. We are the co-owners of Serendipitous Rebel, and I am super excited today to talk about what I am boldly going to proclaim is going to be the number one predictor of a successful business in not just 2026, but from this day forward. And it's one thing, and that is, do you have a healthy, it's not just do you have community, do you have a healthy community that you are a part of? Okay. And when I thought about the topic of this podcast, it actually came up about a month ago because we're at the beginning of 2026 and there are so many different things that are changing in the landscape of online business, okay? The way that we sell is incredibly different. Social media works differently. AI has disrupted everything, okay? We have longer sales cycles. We have, I think, the day of like running what I would call like self-liquidating ads are over to a low ticket offer that goes to your big ticket offer that goes to your thing. There are so many different things that are changing in the landscape, right? Conversion rates are down. Everybody and their mother is going to tell you all these different tactics that you need to have to do to be successful. And I really think at the end of the day, all businesses are different. All businesses are going to need to figure out different strategies and different ways to adapt to be able to survive this landscape. But the one common denominator that every successful business is going to have is community. What do you think, Wendy?
I completely agree. And even on a broader, bigger picture that encompasses just what makes us happy and what brings us joy, I think that ultimately it's community. I don't think I'm the only person who says one of my broad reasons for existence is because I want to belong with people who I want to belong with. And I think that for those of us who have the ability to really harness that in, as you said, a healthy way, are the ones I think ultimately will be the most successful. Yeah, it's all about how do we interact with people who aren't necessarily our, twins, but that we have a healthy respect for and that we want to get to know better and that we want to be intellectually stimulated and things of that nature. I think it is really, really important. And I love that you're actually going to share foreshadowing 3 elements of what it takes. And I've really been giving a lot of thought to that. So yeah.
So when you think about a community and a healthy community, okay, there are 3 things that it really needs and to be functional for you. And I also want to preface this with that I think that we can belong to multiple types of communities in our lives. Okay. We've talked about on this podcast the different hats that you wear. Okay, which basically means, and Wendy right now is wearing her Susquehanna hat if you're watching the video replay of any of this, because her kids go to Susquehanna University and she is a mom of college twins, right? And so I think that depending on the hat we're wearing, that will actually be the driving force onto what kind of community we're looking for. And some communities will have intersection and some won't. But when I think about this, you can have your business owner hat and so you have your business community, okay, which I think is really important. I think
Mm-hmm.
that you can have your community of other moms that you are in community with. I think you have your
Mm-hmm.
family community, and family can be not just the family you're born into, but the family you choose. All of these things are important, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, but for it to be a healthy community and for you to feel comfortable and engaged in that community, there really are three things that need to exist, okay? One, we have to have a common bond, okay? Shared values, and not just surface level shared likes, though
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can start a community off of that, but for a community to be really well rooted, I think there has to be the shared value aspect of it. I think it's not just you like ice cream, I like ice cream because I do like ice cream. But and I think that when you're younger as a child, your community is based off of more likes. I think part of growing up and maturing as an adult and growing in this world is really leaning into more of the shared value aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one, you have a common bond. Okay, there's
Mm-hmm.
something that brings us together. So when I think about this, also, I think about this from the business owner lens. Okay, I don't think it's enough that we can have community and just be, oh, you own a business, I own a business. Now we're in community together. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
again, I think that it's the intersection of all of these things that we have in common. You're a business owner, I'm a business owner, but we have the shared value of kindness, integrity, of wanting to have purpose-driven businesses, of wanting to bring more joy into this world.
And I would just expand on that a little bit to say that I think one of the emphasis of Savor is that we believe in slowing down, uh, connecting deeply. So it's not it's the narrow deep, not the wide shallow.
Yeah.
And that the importance of being like fully present in how we choose to build a life worth living.
Mhm.
And I think there's values there, and there's also a bit of aspiration. I think that makes it a little more stimulating and also is attractive. And, I was thinking about this, and this is a bit of a side, and I
Sure.
apologize, that if we have, say, new listeners or new listeners or listeners who are new entrepreneurs, some of the things to look at in terms of finding communities that maybe you can help, or maybe that, if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, there's, I think when we look at values, there's like identity based values, such as a profession or a life stage or something cultural or ethnic or faith based, also generational. A lot of times dumping millennials with Gen Zers, it makes for a pot that's interesting and unique, and not always. Yeah. Um, there's
Because
also
because we
there's also
millennials don't like anyone. No, I'm kidding.
no,
No,
that's not
that's
true.
that's your Gen Xers.
Yeah.
No.
So also there's really the experience based, whether it's you've survived or experienced the same thing, whether it's grief or divorce or cancer or whatever it is. There's also possibly grew up in the same location. Uh, one of the most fun groups I'm in is a Maryland group because we obsess about our flag, but it's a really unique, and also, hey, I'm a Jersey girl. But anyway, places that you grew up or possibly served together, whether it's if you served in the military or did volunteer work or mission experience, or went through the same program or school. Uh, I know that there's a lot of Jayhawks out there who bond together. And then of
We
course
just
there's
rock chalk
there's
each other
yeah,
randomly in
yeah.
random places.
Exactly. Except sadly losing in basketball this weekend.
That's
Uh,
okay.
yeah.
It's the first time I didn't put them all the way in my bracket in like 20
Oh, well,
years. There you go.
yeah. And then, of course, as there is a really a values based, whether it's whether it's your belief in how you handle personal growth or self
Sure.
improvement, or being committed to a healthy living, or prioritizing family over career. I know of a group that's incredible about focusing on working no more than 20 hours a week. you
Sure.
know Actually, we had her on the
We
podcast a
had her
few
on the
weeks ago.
podcast, Michelle Vroom.
Yes, yes. And there's values based can also be around travel
Sure.
and things of that nature. The people who want to be expats or digital nomads, also aspirational. And I think that that's one that we dabble in a lot. Are you building a business? Are you trying to write a book? Are you trying to live more intentionally or joyfully? Anyway, I guess my whole point of this is there's a lot of different ways, as you said, to slice and dice.
Yeah.
And also, you have bonds. We're multifaceted human beings,
Yeah.
and we have bonds in multifaceted different areas. So don't put all your eggs in one Easter basket.
No, I agree. Because I think it's important to be involved in multiple communities, but I do
Yeah,
think it is equally important, no matter what hat you wear, that you have a community involvement when it comes to that hat.
yeah.
And when it comes to your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being involved in a community, especially as an online digital entrepreneur, and I'm talking a lot to our clients that are coaches and service providers, okay? This is a very unique group of people that, I will be honest, the people in my day-to-day world, in my mom community and
Mm-hmm.
in my church community or in my family community, they don't understand because they don't speak the same language. When I say
Yeah,
words like funnel or KPIs, I mean, some of those things translate, but not everything,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
When I talk about how, we built a social media marketing funnel for a client, they kind of cock their head and they don't know what that means, right? So it's having, again, those common bonds, the people that speak the same language as you, whose eyes don't glaze over when you start talking, but like engage in what you're talking about because you have the shared thing that you can geek out about, whether it's the
Yeah.
Maryland flag, which I don't even know what that's all about, and or
Ah.
or us Jayhawkers, rock chalk Jayhawk, somebody in the middle of the Vatican once. That was really funny. And but it's this shared language that anybody from the outside will look at you like you have two heads. Like if I
Yeah.
just went up to somebody here in Texas and I just said rock chalk Jayhawk, they'd be like, what the what?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
again,
but I could hang them horns.
hook'em horns, that's the
Hook them,
thing.
hang them. See, I'm not in Texas.
See, we're not a part of
Right, but I know
community,
how to
so
do
we
the.
don't know what that is.
Yeah, I know the hand gesture, but that's it.
But that's it. Right? But it's finding somebody who can have that shared jargon, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's the first thing that I think a community really needs to have. And I think you need to find that because also if you don't have that shared bond, you will feel like an outsider in that community. You will not
Mm-hmm.
feel like you belong. You're going to feel
Mm-hmm.
that disconnect. It's out of alignment. It's inauthentic. Okay. And so when I think about even all of the communities that I've been involved in as a business owner, there have been a handful of communities that I have felt very uncomfortable in that are business communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But either they've been local communities that, my chamber of commerce, that didn't last very long for me because a brick and mortar business owner has the same different set of jargon and different bonds that an online business owner has, right? My goal is not to build a multi-million dollar empire. I'm not trying to scale to eight
Mm-hmm.
figures or whatever the new thing is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to build a sustainable business that supports my lifestyle and supports and gives me income, but you know, we work more within the six figures, not within the 7 or 8, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's understanding, again, from the community aspect, what are your goals? What is it that you're working towards? And when you're not working towards the same thing, that bond, that you're going to feel out of alignment, you're going to feel out of place. And one of two things happens in that scenario. You either feel like you're failing, okay, because you feel like you're just not, again, it's that out of alignment piece, or you start to shift your goals and your identity towards this other thing because it's what you're surrounded by. And you're going to start to either hit a wall because subconsciously you're just not there, or you're going to find that it's not ever going to work for you. You've plateaued in weird ways because, again, they're not your goals, they're not your values, they're somebody else's.
And I think that that is really especially interesting in the world we live in, where there are so many entrepreneurs who have put together communities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's largely around their, I'm going to say, influencer status or whatever. And it's really around them.
Mm-hmm.
And which there's nothing wrong with. And there's nothing wrong with including communities that especially feed your need for learning, your need, and also, for interaction with like-minded um like-minded entrepreneurs. I think the thing that you just said that really hit home is that you have to stay true to yourself
Yes.
and not become one of I'm picturing, like the ducks marching, but not to become um one of followers, or and I think of it's interesting because one of the things that I remember back when I first entered the online space is you do want individuals who absolutely will follow you to the ends of the earth. So, yeah, I just think it's really important that we always stay true to ourselves.
I agree. And knowing who you are and what it is that you want to be is really, really important, and having that
Yeah,
self-awareness, which we talk
yeah.
about all the time. But I think having that community aspect and that shared bond is super important, because it takes me into the second thing a healthy community does, and that is it gives you a healthy community has a shared burden.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do I mean by that? This is what takes your community away from just being in the same room together, okay? And into the next level, okay? Because it really measures like what you carry together, okay? Because it's not about the performative piece of it, okay? But it's about understanding and being and having the opportunity in a community to be vulnerable and say, hey, this isn't just the highlight reel that the rest of my
Mm-hmm.
audience sees, but this is the behind the scenes that gives your community depth, okay? Because it really gives you when you have a shared burden within a community, it really
Mm-hmm.
gives you that opportunity to, one, recognize that it's not just you that is doing this. You're not alone. And that's what gives you the actual real connection in a community.
Yes. And I think about the groups that the groups that I listed above, the different types of communities, comes in especially true here. If you have a community of empty nesters, or you have a community of moms with littles, or whatever the community is that you have, and if you have set it up in such a way that you're drilling in to who your ideal clients are, then what you're doing is encouraging them to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to share their struggles. It's not just, yay, we have wins, we have wins.
Correct.
When everybody has wins, it becomes a, can you top this?
Yes.
How can I
Performative.
compare and compete? But if you're really laser focused on who your audience really truly is, and it's, midlife women, messy middle, things like that. By saying messy middle, I think it encourages female entrepreneurs in that stage of life to be vulnerable and to share. And I love that, because what you're saying in a shared burden is, I see your hard thing.
Mhm.
I'm not going anywhere, and I'm acknowledging it
Yeah.
and creating empathy.
Yeah. It creates empathy and it creates trust, right? Because it's
Yes.
not just saying,
Yes.
hey, we like the same things, right? It's
Yes.
like, hey, we've experienced the same struggles. And it also helps because I think that when you have a shared burden in a community, you are stepping out of the performative piece of what you were just talking about. Either it's like I'm always trying to one up you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
into the how can I help? Okay. And I think it's the how can I help, or allowing other people to help you piece. That's where the connection comes from in the community.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's wildly important to feel like you have that connection. Okay. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of us can be members of a community, right? We can be
Mm-hmm.
the lurkers in the group, we can be the flies on the wall, but for there to be a healthy, meaningful piece, you need that connection. And I think that's where the shared burden comes into. And then I think that lends it perfectly into the third thing a healthy community does, which I think it witnesses for you, it lays witness.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what allows you, and I think that sharing a burden and witness really go hand in hand, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it is its own separate entity, because it's not just enough to say in your community and have the courage to be vulnerable and say, I'm having a hard time, but to have somebody witness it and be able to reflect back to you, one, that they have been where you are, and this is how they would advise you to move forward, but then also be willing to help and then remember later on.
Yes.
I mean, when you think about some of the most powerful connections of our moment, when I say remember later on, um, I would think about how you can go somewhere, whether it's a school event or something like that. And actually, I'm gonna think of a spouse group I was a part of, and somebody had shared with me sitting next to me that their mom was in the hospital, right? So the next month rolls around. It was one of those groups that met once a month, right? So the next month rolls around. The same person sits next to me and says, and I ask, "How is your mom doing?" She couldn't believe that I remembered
Mm-hmm.
who she was, but then also that her mom was in the hospital and then was considerate enough to ask. Those things are so meaningful. And that's such a small thing, right? This is not a pat Krystal on the back moment, but that's a person that now has become a very important friend of mine for actually now going on 6 years, right? And it was that one piece of connection. So the common bond was, we're all spouses of an ExxonMobil, right? Common bond. A shared burden though of like, hey, how, her sharing with me a struggle, and then a witness, somebody else who can see you and be able to have the consideration to ask about it. That's a very small example. I think there's millions of these that we can go deeper on, but that's just a very surface level example.
Well, so I think that the ultimately what the witness is, someone who is able to track your story over time
I agree.
and remember where you started or where the story started. And then they notice whether it's growth or whether it's whatever it is. And then they can turn around and call you on your patterns or cheerlead you along the way or
Yeah.
be there to celebrate when you're done is done kind of thing. And you know, when I listen to this, I think that for and you met in person.
And we met in
So
person. Yeah.
right. And I think that in a lot of online groups and online spaces, this particular piece is missing, and it's such a critical piece because yes, you can hop on a Zoom and or in a group and definitely share the burden. I think that is actually something that the online space, as long as it's focused, and the um I guess the group itself is focused. It's not, you know, we were talking about someone was telling a story and then it's like, um, oh, I love green, or some weird interjection that personalizes it, but has nothing to do with sharing the burden.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm saying is that with the witnessing piece, I think that it is less common in the online space because it requires continuity. It requires a level of presence that can be replicated online, but is often overlooked. And then there's the whole piece that I care enough about being in this group or being in with you, and it just asking a question that is um can be life altering for the person who's the recipient, and just a really nice thing for the person who's actually doing the asking to do.
Yeah, I agree because
Yeah.
it's also one, I think that when you're in online groups, they're so fragmented, they're very hyper niched, right? And so it's hard to see the cross sections of all of the aspects of us. We talk all the time that we're multifaceted people. Not all of our facets make it into the niche group, right? But I think when you're
Hmm.
in person in a group in community, it's really hard. It's much harder to hide those aspects of ourselves. When I think about our in-person retreats,
Hmm.
right? um, we can talk about, we sit in person and we talk business and we can get hyper niche and hyper focused, but then my phone will ring and my kids call, right?
Sure.
Or you know, it'll pop up an alert that something had happened with one of my kids, and I can share in that group and it allows that personal connection. But I think that, and I also think it's easy in online communities for you to just skim, right? People
Hmm.
just, I think of online communities like a buffet of community, right? You take what you want, you kind of skim over the rest, okay? It's the witness piece. And then there's a third thing that
Hmm.
happens with online communities. When online communities just focus on the burden piece of it, they can
Hmm.
become toxic, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's where you just get to have like what I would call like bitch fest sessions. And the people
Yeah,
just don't like it, right?
yeah, yeah.
But the witness piece of it, that who can reflect back to you and who can hold you accountable and who can track, I love how you said that, track your story and remember, okay? That's the driver of authentic connection beyond
Hmm.
just a shared problem, right?
Hmm.
It's beyond just a common bond, okay?
Hmm.
It's again what's really driving home the connection piece. And that's
Yeah.
where transformation and community actually happens, is when all
Hmm.
of these three things can actually work in conjunction together. And so when I say the bold statement that the biggest driver of a successful business in 2026 is going to be community, it really is because when you put these three things in orchestration together, a common bond, a shared burden, and witness, that's where you have momentum. That's where you have
Hmm.
identity shifts. That's where you can have people that can get you out of your silo and into and out of your own head and
Hmm.
into a real transformational change. Okay. Because when we think about how we learn and consume content as an online business owner, we do it through courses, right? We do it through self-directed courses. We do it now very much through AI. Okay. Those things are still in a silo. They still are only given, they're still very one directional. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think community has this back and forth and this give and take when it has all of these aspects of it that give you this very healthy elevation that you cannot replicate in AI and you can't replicate in a course.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And I think like in a happy world, I guess I could give out a little secret is that we're launching a community. And I think about this in terms of we have a community that has a common bond that'll get people into the room, into the community. There's a shared burden. That to a large extent is what will keep them in the community. The witness piece, which means we do retreats and that we do other things within the community, that's what makes people not want to leave,
Correct.
because that's what builds, as you said, the sense of belonging, the purpose, and also this connection that you really need, that makes just the community feel like, wow, these are my soul sisters, or which makes it more like a family than it is, oh, I have a work obligation, I got to show up in this community, drop a few posts, let's see what I get out of it. It becomes much more of an interactive, mutually beneficial, like I said, yeah, it's like having your soul sisters around.
Yeah, and when I think about the things that have not worked for me in business, right? Or masterminds that fell short, right? It's because, again, I think that bond brings you into the room. I love
Mhm.
the way you said that. Okay. But if you, I think oftentimes the communities that fail are run by a guru who are not allowing you to witness or who
Mm.
don't witness you, right? They're run by a person who they don't see you for who you are. They're not able to reflect back to you because there's either a wall up, they're either
Mhm.
isolated at a pedestal up at the front of the room, or they are spending so much time projecting themselves onto you that they're not actually seeing you, right? And then we talked about the pitfalls of where a shared burden can come into play, but I think it's so much about why I think most programs don't work the way people are wanting them to, is because they might give you information, but they don't give you the full aspects of what you need for a community, because it's not just about being in the room. Though I think being in the room is really important. Some people are like, oh, the key to success is just get in the room. Okay, well, I've done that. And we paid a lot of money to be in a lot of really expensive rooms.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
But if you're not really known, okay, and this is what I think about too, and I'm going to use myself as an example. I'll pick on me because it's just so easy and I'm right here.
Mhm.
If to be known in a community is for people to really know about the situation that I deal with my daughter, Sydney, right? And all of the things that I juggle with her health struggles. And those that are new to the podcast, I have a daughter with special needs who has epilepsy, and she's had 4 brain surgeries in the last several years, right? Um, if you don't know that aspect of me and you're trying to give me, there's no way that you can have a shared burden. There's no way you're witnessing, and there's no way we can actually even fall on the same terms of a common bond, because there's something else behind the scenes that I'm working with that has to be factored in strategy in all aspects of my life, to be
Mhm.
honest, right? Whether it's a business strategy or just strategy on getting dinner on the table. But it's about being very intentional of a community that can do those 3 things, though, so that they can have the big picture of my life, right? All of us have something that needs to be witnessed in our lives and factored in for us to have the full impact that we want to have, whether it's in our business or in the world, right? But if we're not factoring the whole big picture in, if we're not allowing ourselves to be seen in that way, and we're not in a community that sees all of us, we're always going to hit a roadblock and hit the struggle, right? And I think that's again where a lot of communities fall short, is we do try to, because we're being performative, we're trying to compartmentalize or fragment or niche, and we're not allowing our whole selves to be seen. And it's working against us more than it's working with us.
Yes. I can't top those stories. I really cannot.
Well, talking about topping the stories,
No,
it's
you're
an
gonna
extreme
touch, and
example,
actually,
right?
and also this whole this whole piece at the end.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's so, and it's really important to have the opportunity to share what you want to share,
Mhm.
not share whatever it is you don't want to share,
Sure.
and just to allow yourself to be as unique. I mean, we're all unique people.
Right.
And I think it's really important. And to be just a little blunt in that, if you find yourself, in a group and you're like, we all sell the same thing, we all, ultimately solve the same problem. Well, actually, there's very little in this world today that is truly unique. The
Right.
only thing that is actually unique is whatever the story we bring of ourselves
Mhm.
to whatever the arena we're in. And that is what is so important about finding space where you have the ability to be vulnerable, to be yourself, to share your burden, and to not only have others witness you, but for you to witness others. And I think it's a really powerful opportunity and experience to be part of. And I think of even our recent mastermind retreats where and it's usually around the last night.
Yeah.
And it's an environment that is absolutely vulnerable and absolutely powerful. And I'm not going to say you cannot recreate that, but I think the best communities I have ever been in are ones where the centerpiece has been in person.
Mhm.
And it's like the hub and the spoke. The hub is the in person where you really get to know people. And the
Mhm.
spokes are the opportunities to continue to share when you're back in your own, real world, but yet continue. And it's actually the continuation of the connections and continuations of the stories and the opportunities to do I see you, and I'm not just going to see you 6 months from now. I see you on a much more regular basis. I hear from you on a much more regular basis. That kind of an experience, which I think we do a really good job of, or try to do a really good job of creating for our clients.
I agree. I think because I think the difference too between an online community and an in-person community experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting that you said it usually happens on the last night. So we run 5-day in-person retreats. They are really powerful. They're very transformational. I do think your first couple days are spent deconstructing the performative nature, because these retreats are the bringing together of online business owners, right? I think it takes less time these days because a lot of our retreat participants are past
Mm-hmm.
participants and they've been in our world for a very long time. But I think new people that come to the table, there's always a little bit of a hold back the first couple of days, because that is how we are kind of hardwired to show up in the world. And it's protective, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing bad about it. We all do it, Okay. I think that it's very harder. It's very hard. It's very harder. It's much harder to break that down in an online space because because all of us can be performative. Not all of us can hold up the facade for 24 hours, multiple days in a row. Okay.
No, I
But
can't.
all of us can show up at a hot seat on a Zoom call. I mean, not all of us, but I hate hot seats. But, we can show up at a hot seat on a Zoom call for an hour and have our offer talked about by a guru, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can chit chat online in a Facebook group about this, that, and what we know about this, that, and just be silent the rest of the time, right? But it's hard to show up with that sort of a facade for multiple days, all right? After a while, it starts to break. And again, our personal lives and all the other different parts of us really come through. So that's why I think in-person opportunities are so incredibly powerful. And if you are going to be a part of any sort of a community, and if you listen to last week's episode, it really dives in having the offline piece connection. I think finding a community online is great, but finding a way to connect offline is even more powerful and more important.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely totally agree.
So at the end of the day, it's not more strategy that's going to make you successful. It's going to be in a space where you're actually seen, supported, and not doing it alone. That's
I
going to
could,
carry momentum and clarity in your business in 2026. It's my
yes.
bold
And
proclamation.
hopefully, actually, I had mentioned that we are launching a community, a saver community, and we'll have just launched. We will drop a link for you to follow. It is a free community and an opportunity to really do just that, be vulnerable, interact with like-minded, fabulous women, and yeah, hopefully get what you need in the real world, but yet in the online space. I think that is definitely our goal. And what am I missing? Plenty.
The community show notes can be found. The link to our community can be found in the show notes on our
Oh yeah,
website,
that.
in the
Oh
link in
yeah.
all of our social media, or you can just find it at serendipitousrebel.com/community. You can jump in. It is free. It does not live on any social media platforms. It's all in our own private portal.
Which is
And
super easy to access. Super easy.
super easy to access. So easy, even we can do it. So
No. It's so easy. I can do it.
true that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't have a problem with this stuff. I do.
Well, all right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, we will see you hopefully in the Saver community. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating.
But only if you liked it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself.
You can learn more about our upcoming masterminding opportunities on our website at serendipitousrebel.com.
And if you have topics you'd like to hear about, be sure to submit them on our website or DM us on social media.
Hey, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.